The more info you can get, the more you're able to price. That way, you're now able to capture 500 grand instead of like, maybe 60 grand for the year, 120 grand for the year, right? Because pricing is one of the biggest levers that you can pull. Today, we are going to talk about how to price correctly. Now, Neil, why is it important to price correctly?
If your price is too expensive, you may not generate enough sales. If it's too low, you may generate a lot of sales, but not enough profit. You got to pick the right price so you can maximize not only the revenue, but the profitability of the business.
So Neil, why don't we start it off? Why don't you cover the software side of how to price correctly, and then I can help with the services side. Some of them there might be some crossover, but you want to start first?
Cover e-commerce. My rule of thumb, and I know this is going to sound bad. There's an amazing company called Price Intelligently that'll help you maximize your profitability with pricing. If you have the money, I highly recommend paying them. I've done really well paying them, and a lot of my friends have too. They can do e-commerce, SaaS services, etc. But what I found that the right pricing to get the most traction, and I know this is going to sound simple, is less than the competition. Try to offer more than them, price less than them. And you don't necessarily, when you look at it from a pricing standpoint and a formula, you don't necessarily maximize your profitability. But what I find is it's much cheaper marketing. So these days, so many companies spend so much money on marketing that it's actually just cheaper giving away stuff for less money than it is to spend as much on marketing. I know that probably sounds weird to you guys to hear from me, being that I make most of my money in marketing, but I found that just undercutting competition in most cases and spending less on marketing does better and creates more virality and more word of mouth. Assuming you have an amazing product that's just as equal, if not better than your competition, and you're giving away more than them for less money, it just helps your company grow much, much faster without really doing much marketing.
Cool. So there are a couple of resources to check out from a pricing standpoint. There's a great book called Pricing Creativity, and that book is priced at $300. So they value price that one. If you don't want to pay the $300, there's actually one called Win Without Pitching. This is more geared towards services people, but I think there are some takeaways for e-com and also for software. And so those two books are great. Tomasz Tungus will often share stuff about pricing, and also OpenView Ventures or OpenView Partners. It's a VC firm. They also talk about pricing quite a bit. I believe his name's Kyle something. You'll have to find it. But those are just a couple of resources to check out. And so when it comes to pricing on the services side, what usually happens, let's say Neil, I'm trying to sell Neil on services, right? So instead of saying, hey, we sell these packages at 5 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand a month, I might just say, hey, Neil, what goal are you trying to hit? Neil will say, I'm trying to hit this goal. I'll say, okay, what is the value of hitting this metric? Neil might say $10 million. And I'll say, okay, if it's $10 million, if we can guarantee you that we hit this metric, it's $10 million, would it be fair for you to pay us $1 million, right? I'm oversimplifying it right now for round numbers. And so he'll say, yeah, of course, right? Now, then I might go back to my team and say, okay, what are the odds of us hitting this metric? So let's say 50%. So then I would take that $10 million, right? 10 million divided by 2, that's $5 million. And basically, I would just cut that $1 million, service fee that he said he would pay into 500K, and then I would break it out over, X amount of time, right? That's a simple way to do it. But also another question I would ask Neil is I would say this. I'll say, hey, Neil, let's say you and I are hanging out in 3 years. We're grabbing a beer or something, and we're hanging out. We're good friends. What would have had to happen for us to get to that point? And then Neil would just start to rattle off a bunch of things, right? Now I know everything that's important to Neil, and I know the value of the metric. And not every single customer is going to know this, but the more info you can get, the more you're able to price. That way, you're now able to capture 500 grand instead of like, maybe 60 grand for the year, 120 grand for the year, right? Because pricing is one of the biggest levers that you can pull. I'll pass it back to you, Neil, and then maybe I'll close it off with some final thoughts.
It's funny with pricing, everyone has their own take, and people can tell you that there's some ways make more money than others, and it could be, but there's also strategy, right? For example, just going really low or free sometimes is better than paying $60 a click on Google just for traffic. So you got to figure out not just what's going to end up causing the most profit for the business per customer, but also what's going to allow you to grow virally and gain market share as well. So think of pricing not just as, hey, it's black and white, and if you charge this amount versus or X amount versus Y amount, you'll make X% more in profit or revenue, you also need to think about it from what's going to allow you to penetrate the market and grow faster.
Yeah. Final thing I'll say from my side, there's a really good post actually from mutual friend Heaton Shah, and he actually had a Google sheet actually helping with pricing. So basically the question you would ask, you have two questions you would ask here. What would be too expensive for this, right? And also what would be too cheap where you'd question the quality of this? For example, if I bought Neil a Louis Vuitton purse, which he loves, and if it was only $5, he would question the quality of it, right? I'm joking. Neil obviously doesn't wear purses. But my point is, if you ask questions, you're talking to your customers, and then you're asking these questions over time, and even pre-launch too, you're going to get an idea of kind of what's acceptable and what isn't. I wouldn't say that's the end all be all, but at least these are a couple of data points that you have. So that is it for today. Please go check out levelingup.com/live. Next event is in LA, August 29th to the 31st. It is a founder-focused mastermind, and that is it for today. We got some killer speakers coming already. We'll start off with one. Layla Hormozi and Alex Hormozi are going to be coming to hang out. So that is it for today. Catch you later.